I'm Jillian Seguin, Wealth Advisor at Ray's Group at IA Private Wealth, and I'm here again with Eric.
Hello?
Oh.
There
I was
wasn't.
going to say, you look great in that chair, Eric.
This isn't
Pretty good.
on the schedule. Hey, bud.
Hey.
We filming?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were sick.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you took advantage of me being sick.
So
Why don't I just get time? No, it's okay. I'll just get
You get coffee, we'll keep talking.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, Eric, you were saying?
As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life damn, then I better go get it.
This podcast is being brought to you by the Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth. That is made up of myself, John Reyes, a wealth advisor, and Jillian Seguin, an associate wealth advisor.
All right, take two here now. We're so happy to have John Reyes here with us. And myself, Jillian Seguin, associate wealth advisor at IA Private Wealth, Ray's Group. I hope I still have a job. And Eric.
Eric Chan, ERC Wealth Management.
Oh, are you sure it's not Reyes Group?
Yeah.
Okay.
Used to be.
Okay.
Yeah. You look good in that chair, though.
Thanks.
Eric Chan, ERC Wealth Management, certified financial planner.
John Reyes, Reyes Group, IA Private Wealth Advisor.
Wealth advisor.
Well, sorry, if I was planned, I would be ready for this.
Okay,
And so
all right.
just so we're okay.
Okay, so we were fortunate to have Eric on our previous podcast, and it went super long, and all of our podcasts can be pretty boring. So I'm going to keep this one pretty short, and we're really just going to touch on 2 points that we were unable to, or we're going to get a little bit more in depth on 2 points that we touched on in our previous podcast that I think would be really valuable for listeners and viewers. The first one is insurance as a dirty or yucky word. And the second point is really, John and I have explained how process-orientated we are, and also how we have folded in 3 pillars into our business. That's service, strategy, and success, which is written on our walls. And how does that relate to your business? So I'll let you tape one at a time.
No, loyalty should be really up on the wall, too. So we're going to work on that one. Big L. Loyalty. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I think starting with the service strategy success, I think having a process in place to review your financial plan is a huge part of that process. And it fits right in because for most planning opportunities and planning outcomes, having some sort of process within your financial plan, working with wealth advisors or an estate planner helps you put in that process to really watch and see your estate succeed as well in doing what you set out to do.
Yeah, so I think we have incorporated a financial plan into our process with the majority of our clients. But you mentioned last podcast that insurance needs or wants usually are derived from a financial plan. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think going through the financial plan, it brings out a lot of risk and mitigation measures that I think a lot of people don't feel or they don't see without actually seeing a plan developed. On one of your podcasts, you were talking about DIYers and do-it-yourselfers, and that's great. There's a lot of components to financial planning that I think a lot of people don't see or think about.
100%.
And because of that, having a financial plan as a baseline for what you want to do, I think will really help. It'll help people see the risk in their plan of the downside should something happen to them. and their asset base, really.
Yeah, and having a financial plan that you're able to pivot depending on whatever life events come your way, right?
Correct.
And that's also like where insurance would fall too, because some of those life events
Correct.
could benefit from insurance. Also identifying tax liabilities, right, in your financial situation.
Well, I think with everyone's plan, we all have the vision that it's going to happen this way, this is the way it goes, and that's the way it's going to be. I'll tell you, not one plan ever turns out that way because there's so many bumps along the way. Right? We all envision we're going to live till 80, we're going to have grandchildren, we're going to pay off a house. Like, you have all this stuff in your head that you want to really see happen, but I guarantee you, as us, young kids and parents now, nothing goes according to plan. But you pivot, and you do it.
Podcast
Yeah,
didn't really go according to plan,
well,
right?
for John, did for us.
I know.
Yeah, we film on certain days. I knew a day. I came in, and they're filming. But enough of that. I think that the uniqueness actually of this podcast today, and having you both sit on the couch and me over here, has it's a good parallel. And why I say that is, for those of us that are clients of Jill and I, you've been part of the process, you've been part of the journey. You know that there's 5 team members, and then there's Eric, and we have this very big focus on the client experience and what each of us has to do with that part of the experience. But what I did enjoy about listening to this dialogue between the two of you is it's very much focused on the process steps, the things and examples of how it comes together. I think what we try to embody and what we try to embark on in terms of what we're doing at Rays Group, and I know that you at ERC, by extension of your business that you run, it's about trying to make sure that people can understand that in a framework and how that all comes together so that it isn't becoming an isolated discussion about insurance. It's not becoming an isolated discussion about financial planning. It's about what you just described. The journey, as much as we want to set a path and a direction or a bearing, is never going to go to plan. And as long as you can have a team that understands and creates that framework for you, then you can keep moving along that journey, and hopefully it does go out the way you think. But if it doesn't, we have the tools in place to be able to do it. And that's what I'm getting from this. And that's what I'm hoping our viewers and our listeners are getting from this, is that we put so much emphasis on that client experience. Is there any comments that you want to have on that in terms of why you feel that that should be the thing?
It's a purpose. I mean, really, like, we've talked about why we got into wealth advising. Why did you get into financial planning?
Yeah, I got into it because I wanted to really, at the end of the day, make an impact. A lot of people, and I haven't really shared the story with many people. So my dad passed away when I was 20, and there was a little bit of insurance there, but it wasn't, seeing the impacts and being so young, I think there could have been a big difference in the planning opportunities that somebody could have talked to them about. And I don't think they knew any better at the end of the day. So being able to relate that and seeing the impacts on one side and how it can translate to others on the other side, you can totally have a different feel of what it's like on both sides, because most people won't experience that, though, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
So,
Wow. I didn't know that, man.
Nope. Not many people do.
I didn't know that either.
That's life, though, right? Again, that's life. It wasn't according to our plan, but it happens.
And I appreciate the candidness and openness that you have. And we were in a meeting earlier today where, Jill, you said it best. You said that at the end of the day, we are glorified therapists, right? And nobody ever really asks us where our purpose comes from, right? And you being able to share the fact that it started rooted at home and an experience that is so close to you in that way, gives that connection and that validation about why we do this. So I'm not trying to oversell this point, but I appreciate you being that open, because it's not easy, right? We all have stories, and I don't want to, and I'm not going to, right? I've got.
No, but you in the last podcast, right? It's not like you come out and you're like, "Hey, look at this." It doesn't happen, man.
No.
That's life. That was part of it, and
You
move forward.
right?
Yeah, you move
and
forward.
that's it, right? And I'm not going to we all have our experiences. Jill has stories, I have stories, but I think I want to keep it focused on that, because not that we have to keep digging down on that, but that is the validation that I think is paramount in doing this. I think some of the other stuff that I want to be able to touch on, and I can't even remember if we talked about it in this one or in the last podcast, it becomes a blur, is, getting that relatability to, the average age that we are, and trying to create that advocacy so that people can understand that insurance is not a dirty word, right? And that the process of what we're trying to build here, and again, we were at a seminar before in terms of collectively, which we were very grateful for you to include us in. And one of the things that we talked about was just trying to find that way to communicate it in a way that is going to help our audience pick up the phone, if it's not us, to your advisor, and start talking about how we can do risk mitigation. So can you give us a bit of examples from your experience about the journey that your mom had to then take at that time with your father passing, and what is it that was learned from that then has become maybe fundamental stuff on your process and how you do things now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Haven't thought about that in a super long time. But I mean, at that point, I would say it was probably a year-ish after that, right? I think the memories of staying at that house had to change, so that we ended up moving.
Did your mom have support in terms of like professionals or people that she could talk to, or how did she go about doing that while she's still trying to raise a family now on her own?
Yeah, that was probably the toughest part. I probably distanced myself just with the emotions that you don't really understand at that time.
Yeah.
So I thinking back, I probably couldn't tell you exactly because it was all a big blur.
Yeah.
But I know that it was super tough though, to watch them go through that, and to watch what my brothers and stuff had to go through as well. It was hard.
And how did your mom end up coming back to center, having to raise a family and deal with the financial impacts of not having, maybe the necessary steps? Because again, like happens, how did she, I don't want to say recover because it's not the right word, but how did she move forward? And more importantly, you may not remember, and I get it, you won't remember, but there's going to be some fundamental stuff from that has helped you, your baseline, and how you maybe deal with clients now, right? Or sensitivities around a lack of planning. So how does that all come together for you?
Yeah, so there's, I think the biggest one, it would be watching her, and what it ultimately provided was time, assets, and ability to take that time to grieve is really what it comes down to. I mean,
It's a huge, powerful statement you just said.
I shut off from all my friends, and they can validate this. I mean, I shut off from all my good friends for 2 years. Didn't talk to any.
Wow.
Right? And it was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
They just bought time.
Yeah.
There's a time. And that was me without young family. And having a family now, I mean, I can imagine what that would be like to try to have to go through that. And then all of a sudden think about bills, other things, because they still happen. Life still goes on every single day, even if something like that happens. So it buys you time to manage yourself and your own emotions, I find, before you can take that step to move forward.
We were at our advisor summit in Montreal.
Yeah.
And there was a whole seminar as part of that on insurance, just because of the importance. And one of the advisors that spoke on the panel was relaying a story about how he had taken his wife to a hospital and she delivered 2 perfect little twin boys. And after the delivery, they went to their, I guess, post delivery, I should know because I went through it, but into their hospital room with their perfect little babies, and there was a curtain drawn. And on the other side of the curtain, he was listening to the doctors explain to these parents about the disabilities that their child, their new baby, was going to have, and the challenges that their baby was going to face. And he's looking down at his 2 babies going, how did I get so lucky? Yeah. And so that was his moment. Nothing happened to him. But overhearing this, basically living it between a curtain, that was his aha moment to say, like, nothing can be planned. Nothing can be prepared for. Nothing in life is certain in that sense. And so how do I mitigate that? How do I deal with that? You know?
And so again, using insurance, I think, helps to provide that certainty though.
Yeah. And for,
It-
and,
And prepare for it.
yeah.
Can I just add one comment? And I think so. Back to my point about advocacy, and thank you for opening up and walking through that with me. Is that's what I'm talking about when we focus on the. You mentioned it here, and you mentioned in the last podcast. You're like, we don't ever talk about this. These examples never get told, and you're right, they don't. But we become vessels because those experiences now become part of our DNA. They become part of our process. They become part of our way of doing things. They become part of enriching the lives around us. And when you have that, now it's almost like it's your responsibility. It's your duty to be able to now take those real life examples and those real life experiences and now help your clients find their moment, find their reason, help them guide. And I think that is where that's really what it comes down to. And I think that's what is going to be the point. And, you know, when we have that, I think that experience speaks way more volume than case studies. It'll speak way more volume than, you know, stories that, you know, maybe we have only heard second or third hand. But when we have those and we take those and we run with it, it's key. Totally.
So outside of those experiences, if you haven't opened your eyes to that, let's just touch on that last point. Insurance as a yucky word. Insurance as just a money grab. Insurance as a dirty car salesman. Insurance as whatever feeling you have when somebody says, let me talk to you about insurance. Like, how do we get over that?
Well, I mean, I think a way to think about it would just be, again, if you're using it as an asset, if you're saving $1,000 a month right now, what are you putting it into? Most of them will say, right, to go buy me a stock. That's just the way people think of asset gathering.
Plan for my future.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what happens if you don't get there?
That's right.
And so that's really how you sort of look at it. It's creating
Risk mitigation?
risk mitigation, but creating that certainty again, should something happen. Because you can't plan for that. And because you can't plan for that and it's uncertain, how do you manage that uncertainty and that risk?
And make it certain, they'll make it less risky.
Correct.
So thinking of it as an asset class, okay, I've got $1,000 that I don't need in my current cash flow, that I can sleeve away for savings for the future. Maybe I'll put $800 or maybe I'll put $500 into stock and I'll put $500 into an insurance policy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it were a risk mitigated asset.
Yep.
And I think that's it. I think we got to get that into our vocabulary. I think it's really about a risk mitigation asset. We got to stop looking at it as a standalone ugly stepchild, right? We can't have it over here. It has to be part of the discussion. I referenced that before, and I'm going to reference it again. And I think that's going to be our lifelong journey of trying to ensure that we can keep trying to do that for our clients and the people that are going to listen. You know, what was it, just a moment ago, we talked about, you and I, we were talking about, you know, when you get into a debate with a person about, you know, very strong ideologies or beliefs or biases, you know, there's always different ways to do it, right? And if you try to have a conversation with somebody, you say to them, you know, what is your view on insurance? And they come back to you and they simply say, well, it's just throwing money away. And then I could pull out all this literature and I could start saying, but these are all the facts and these are all the things and these are all the points. You're never going to get into that right frame work that you need to. But if you put that aside and you work with the client to help them better understand and to mobilize themselves with better knowledge and better information, and you can level the playing field, then you can have a healthy discussion about risk mitigation. And the only way we can start doing that is by stop using the word insurance. Although legally bound, we have to use the word insurance, but what its end result is, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is, you know, our life journey.
I think what you do is important, Darren.
I don't.
Well, I said I'd keep it short. I hope,
Yeah.
unless you guys have anything more to add.
Well, no, we'll talk about that off camera.
Okay. John, it's been a real pleasure having you here.
And we'll talk to Simon, because you set all this up.
Thank you, Eric. You've spent now 2 podcasts with us, and we cannot thank you enough. And
It's likely the last one. Anyways, I'm John Reyes. I'm stealing your thunder. We're going to start with me. John Reyes. I am a wealth advisor.
You need to say it again. You've already said it at the beginning. Okay. You don't need to say it again. John and Jill and Eric on Bearable, Bearable, not an unbearable, Bearable Conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.
Signing off.
Signing off.
Really? You guys are going to...
As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life jam, then I better go.
This information has been prepared by John Reyes, Wealth Advisor, and Jillian Seguin, Associate Wealth Advisor for IA Private Wealth Incorporated, and does not necessarily reflect the opinion of IA Private Wealth. The information contained in this video comes from sources we believe reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy or reliability. The opinions expressed are based on an analysis and interpretation dating from the date of publication and are subject to change without notice. Furthermore, they do not constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned. The information contained herein may not apply to all types of investors. The wealth advisors can open accounts only in the provinces in which they are registered. IA Private Wealth Incorporated is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. IA Private Wealth is a trademark and business name under which IA Private Wealth Incorporated operates.